Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey, you dorks, this is Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you are listening to The Dorkening.
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor, the voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time, and SpongeBob SquarePants. Ah, meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening! Oh, I love The Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh. And Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, this is Felissa Rose, and you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, it's Courtney Palm. We're shooting Death House, and you're watching The Dorkening.
This is Anthony Michael Hall, and you're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned. My friend's going to show you what entertainment's all about, baby.
The Dorkening.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oh, it ended. I last minute editing, and I messed things up. I need to fix that. But that was a sneak peek at our new intro by Dal Merge, awesome artist over in the UK. And you are watching The Dorkening. We have an awesome show scheduled for you today. And how's it going, powerful Brandon?
It's going, man. Just happy to be here, middle of the week, even though I thought it was Thursday for a good portion of the day. So as much as that was a bummer, still, like I said, happy to be here right now.
Well, we're happy to have you. And I love the shirt. That's the Classic S.
Yes, Fleischer S, man.
Very cool. Very cool. Tom Moore says that's an awesome intro. Thank you, Tom.
He's not wrong.
No, it's Dal Merge. Awesome artist. I got hooked on from the Still Token guys, and it's he does some awesome stuff. And speaking of awesome stuff, William Walley from the World of Wally. How's it going?
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate that.
Oh, thanks for joining us. So why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them about your podcast, what you do, and yeah.
Well, I got a little worried when your intro started. I saw that age and content advisory, so I ran to the closet and put a shirt on because I didn't want to. I wanted to cut down on the nudity levels right off the bat. And thank God I'm plenty old enough. I can't even remember when I was 18. So I covered both of those, and I'll try to keep my language, at par. And I can't remember what else you guys had on. I just remember running to grab a shirt out of the closet. So I wanted you guys didn't need to see that. That's for sure. No, I'm just a podcaster, man. That's all I do. I'd always wanted to do it, and I looked at it as an opportunity, as an avenue to kind of step out and bring some content to the world, that stuff that I would enjoy. And people ask me, what's the show like? I said it's just a deep fried, double wide old country boy from the state of Mississippi that has interesting conversations with amazing people. And they say, really? And I say, yeah, I talk the least amount I can, and I let them talk. That's what makes it interesting.
Awesome. That's a smart way to do it. And we have information for the World of Wally in the show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. Yeah, so we got a full night scheduled. We're going to be talking about He-Man a little later, but I figured, we'll talk about your podcast, but also, a lot of news has been dropping lately. Some exciting stuff. We'll start with you, Powerful Brandon. Your take on Discovery HBO.
Finally, honestly, I mean, it's super weird, out of left field. I mean, even Jason Kilar, the now former head of Warner Media, HBO Max, even you could tell was taken aback and had no idea that this was about to happen.
No, matter of fact, I heard he hired a lawyer to handle like his separation.
Yeah, he very well should. I mean, he had a contract in place that honestly was, I mean, he got a lot of shares altogether when he took over as the head of HBO Max and what have you. But more to the point, he was in line to get paid, like a straight payment, like a legitimate, like, hey, here's your salary. And it was supposed to actually increase into the second year, which would be 2022, going into 2023. And because of what they did, it seemingly goes against the contract that they signed with him. So he's likely going to have to take them to court to get at least some portion of the money that they owe him as part of his contract for his second year. It was beyond that they were supposed to like maybe renegotiate. But regardless of that, it's very strange to me that they're going to take the competencies of Discovery Network, which is essentially reality television, and try to combine it with HBO Max.
Yeah, so you're going with somebody. I think he's responsible for like Desperate Housewives or something like that. Yeah, and going on. I mean, look at the HBO programming. Leaving Game of Thrones out of it, and I know it's the 2-year reunion of that mess. But like the new show The Nevers is phenomenal. I think Barry's on HBO. Just so many awesome shows on HBO.
Well, what this will enable them to do, seemingly, is to offer an ad-supported version for a slightly cheaper price. They're looking at $10 as opposed to 15. And what that would do is it would not put ads into particular movies or shows, but anything that is a Max original, or could be classified as a Max original at that point, will have ads. And that's only if you go for the ad supported version. Otherwise, you can continue paying the $14.99 a month and have everything, the whole kit and caboodle, without any ads.
Well, that scares me because have either of you watched Discovery Plus? Have you signed up for it?
My brother did, and he and I kind of we both share certain things like that with one another, because he's got like, and I'm not exaggerating, he's got 6 kids. Yeah. So, and I have none kids. So it's kind of important for him to have entertainment in the house, especially over the pandemic, during the pandemic. So I offered like everything. I'm like, yeah, no, take all these passwords, all my credentials. You just keep those kids occupied. Not a problem. And, but Discovery Plus came out and I was like, I am not paying for Discovery. I'm just not doing it. And Chris, my brother, was like, oh, hey, I actually got that one. So here's my password. I was like, oh, great. Now my wife can watch Restaurant Impossible, and that's really all we gave a shit about. So there's that.
Well, so what about you, Wally? Do you, William? Do you watch? Do you have Discovery Plus?
Well, for some of us, we have to work for a living, and a few minutes that I do get out fiddling with the podcast or actually working, I do get a chance to a little television. Now, Discovery Plus, I've kind of dabbled with it. I thought about, maybe checking into HBO Max, but then I found out that whole, same release date, where the movie releases to the theater and it releases to HBO Max at the same time, that's fixing to play out, or I don't know it's fixing to play out with this new the deal you guys are talking about. It might not. I just heard that it was going to, so I figured there was no sense in investing in that. I can just go to the theater, which is a crazy idea. I remember when going to the theater used to be a real common thing to do. So,
well, I subscribe both to
my wife is my wife's a huge fan of Discovery, especially the Discovery Plus with all the new network stuff. So yeah, we're big into that. So.
Yeah, sounds like it's right up your alley. Then that's awesome.
The reason why I have some reservations about it is I have HBO Max. I'm loving it. Their originals, they're definitely knocking it out of the park. I mean, the new Bugs Bunny is phenomenal, but Discovery Plus, I signed up for. I'm loving it. I'm loving the content, but I have the commercial version and it crashes constantly. And their answer is, oh, you have to clear your cache, but like every time I clear my cache, that fucks up my computer, but it's only crashes on commercials. Like it'll play my commercial, it'll play like the 3 commercials, and then get to the very end. And before it gets to the show, it crashes. And then if I restart, I got to watch all the commercials again just to find it's going to crash again. It's so fucking annoying. I've been working with support, and their latest one is, watch in incognito mode. Like, why the hell do I need to do that?
Why are all the fixes like Mickey Mouse's? Like, it's all here, let's see what we can jury rig so you can finish watching. What is it, 90 Day Fiance? Don't worry, Leo. We'll get you. We'll get you back into the 90 Day Fiance universe. All you have to do is put it in incognito mode, hop up and down on your left foot, and then move in a circle. Do this 3 times. Put your fingers around your ears. Hold your hand up for 10 seconds. Then click play. Boom. 5 minutes in. Fucking craps out on you, buffering nonstop. It's like, it's doing it again. Oh, did you jump up and down on your left foot 3 times or 4? It's important.
I know you joke about it, but what I watched the most out of it, and you guys may dig it, is the paranormal section. Their shock docs, like they have one on the Amityville house. I just love all those paranormal shows, like Portals to Hell, Ghost Brothers is awesome, Skinwalker Ranch. There's some really good stuff on there, and especially since they have a mixture of everything, Travel Channel, A&E, History Channel. So definitely some really awesome paranormal shows on there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I just spoke to Kendall Welton, and he was part of the original Ghost Hunters group.
Oh, nice.
And he just told me that they've picked them back up. Yeah, they're reintroducing Ghost Hunters as a new content series.
Well, they brought it back last year with Grant, but it seemed like Grant was disappearing. And then Jason Hawes and Steve Gonsalves has their Ghost Nation. So they went out on their own. But it'd be great to see Grant back with Ghost Hunters.
Well, I know Gonsalves announced this morning on Twitter and on Instagram that they're coming back, new content, new series, and it's original cast. He said.
Oh, they're going back to Ghost Hunters?
Mm-hmm. Yep, they're going back. The way it was explained to me, it's going to be Grant, Jason, Steve Gonsalves, Tango, and I think they're keeping Jason's daughter as part of that group.
That is awesome. That's cool.
Yeah,
I know.
when I got
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I got I got a chance to interview Kendall and Vera Welton because they were producers on the documentary in the house in between, the most famous haunted house in the state of Mississippi. I guess that's what they say. I don't know, but I interviewed a gentleman named John Bullard who started the investigation, and a gentleman named Brad Cooney that helped him. Well, then they reached out to Steve Gonzalez, and he actually got Kendall and Vera involved in it as producers, and they made a documentary. It was the #1 documentary on Amazon for like 16 or 17 weeks. So I've stayed in touch with those guys because I'm planning on doing a reunion show with them, in a year. So
Very cool. That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Because Ghost Hunters, it was a great show. I mean, they're one of the ones that kicked off like there was a lot of paranormal shows before, but theirs was legit. Like they're one of the first ones that they go, "Oh, your house is haunted." Well, you know what? It turns out it's it's a pipe that's loose and it's banging on the floorboards, or
yep.
Because Brandon, I don't know if you watch it, but
it was Old Man Witherby who runs the haunted amusement park.
So Jason and Grant were actually plumbers for Roto-Rooter when they first started, and they're
yes, I did know that. I did.
Yeah, and they started actually right here out of Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, yeah.
Yeah. And
Is it TAPS?
TAPS. Yeah. The Atlantic Paranormal something. I admit I did stalk them. I drove by the TAPS thing, and there was one time I when we went there, and like the TAPS truck was in back and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool. I mean, it's their regular office, but I just thought it was pretty cool. But
still, that's cool.
Oh yeah, and with the cons here, there was one con where we just kept on running into Jason Hawes, and he made a joke about it. But there was like one time we even parked next to each other, and we ended up in the elevator multiple times, and I was like, "I'm not stalking you, but it's awesome to see you."
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't notice you around. Oh, I mean, I guess you see me this time. Well, all right. Where are you parked again? Oh, you'll see. Well.
So other WB news, HBO news, we heard of a new Batman cartoon and a new Superman cartoon. And did you see Injustice animated movie?
Yes, I mean, I've seen the announcement. I haven't seen the movie. I don't think they've made it yet. That would be something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, varying degrees of excitement for those projects. I like Batman. I'm a little tired of Batman, just like how they keep doing everything Batman forward with DC and Warner Brothers. Like, we get it. You guys own Batman and you can make Batman stuff. You know what the real trick is? Making other stuff now. Let's try that. With Bruce Timm being involved, I have zero qualms about what the quality is going to be. I'm sure it's going to be excellent. With Superman, or what's it? It's hold on. Batman is going to be called Batman Caped Crusader, and yep, there it is. And Superman is going to be My Adventures with Superman, I believe is the name of it.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Chris Wood, who played Mon-El in Supergirl, and actually. Oh no, not Chris Wood, I'm sorry, I apologize. That's a completely different thing. That comes up later. Yeah. Sorry, with this, the only person I can remember off the top, Jack Quaid, that's what it is. Jack Quaid from The Boys is going to be the voice of Clark Kent and Superman, and Alice, I think his name is Alice Lee. She plays the sister-in-law Emily on Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist on NBC. She is going to be the voice of Lois Lane. So that could be pretty fun. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
And then Injustice, Gods Among Us, I could not give less of a shit about.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. Like, how do I put this? I'm not a big fan of evil Superman trope.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I really don't. It's just that it was cool when it was a subversion. Now it is a trope. It is devolved. It's like when you watch a show over a long time, like they start off as characters and they become caricatures. That's the same thing that's happened with this. Evil Superman was a great subversive idea because everyone always automatically just thought of Superman as like the big blue Boy Scout.
Yeah.
But it's been done so much now that it's been reduced to trope. And I'm all set with that. Like, I feel like the ceiling, or maybe not the ceiling, maybe the basement of that was the movie Brightburn.
Yeah. Yep.
Once we got that movie, it really should have been like a signal, like, all right, let's maybe start getting away from this idea in story and get back to like what actually made the character popular to begin with. Like, the subversion has done its trick. It's now run out of gas. Let's go back to the well. That's just my own take on it.
What about you, Wally? What are your thoughts on the DC announcements?
Well, the problem, I've never been a huge DC fan to start with, but I'm more of a CU guy. But I follow his lead with the Superman. I am done with Superman. Any format, either animated or live action or theatrical release. I'm tired of it. He mentioned the movie Brightburn. I watched it and I almost turned it off. I mean, it reached a point where I had so much time invested in it. I said, I'm gonna ride it out. But it was just, I was so done with it because I already knew how it was going to end before it ended, because it's the same dead storyline they keep recycling. So I
tried to turn it off too, William. I tried to turn it off too, but everybody in the movie theater was pretty pissed off when I threw stuff at the screen.
I imagine so. Yeah, I didn't actually see it in the theater. I had the option that I could have turned it off, but I chose not to. I said, I'm gonna ride it out. Maybe they're gonna shock and surprise me, but they didn't. They were as, that's just like somebody asked me the other day, was I blown away by all the visual effects of the Aquaman movies? And I'm like, the only thing that I'm amazed with is they wasted a guy like Jason Momoa on that character to start with, because there's so many other characters that he could have portrayed. I really honestly can't believe that he wasn't wooed into the whole MCU universe. I figured he would have played some character, in that, because, that was kind of the going thing. DC, in my opinion, and I'm old enough I can go back into the origins of the comics. I can remember when Marvel was the underdog. And now people talk about it's the MCU. What's the next? Right? Kevin Feige, and that the guy's name, got on YouTube. They did a YouTube video, 35 minutes long, where he talked about the next 25 years worth of movies they're going to make. I'm like, what do we need to know that for? What do I need to know that the movie 19 years now? Dude, you might not even be alive in 19 years. You definitely might not be running the company at that point. So it just blows my mind how they have so much time and effort invested into these storylines. And to be honest with you, I mean, the MCU storylines just intrigue me more than the DC does. The DC, I don't know, the DC universe just, I feel like it's dead. I mean, it's the same old stuff over and over. So.
Well,
that's just my opinion. I'm just an old dude just chiming in on the comic world right now. So,
we're all of age here. Well, I don't know, Brandon. You're probably the youngest in the group, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, not by like a country mile necessarily. I mean,
but I mean, DC. The problem with DC, we always have hope that they're going to revive. That the S is hope, right? It's. like for me, I have so much love for Superman and Batman. You know, I love the Marvel shows and movies and everything they're doing on par. And it's just hope that DC could get to that point. You know, could they pick themselves up and actually, you know, make a right decision and stick with it? You know, but they seem, you know, kind of like AT&T always seems to be fucking themselves up. DC is doing the same thing. You know, I don't know if it's the suits that keep on fucking things up, or, you know, do they have the wrong people in charge? Is there really nobody in charge? It's hard to say what they keep on doing, but as a, you know, a Superman and Batman fan, especially Superman, you have hope that they're going to fix it. Hope that, you know, you're going to get that, you know, that scene, you know, and you're going to well up when Superman takes flight and stuff like that. But it's just, yeah, they keep on fucking up.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, like, you know, well up, like watching him take flight, what have you. Honest to God, like, you could tell that's what Zack Snyder was trying for so hard in the movie Man of Steel. And as somebody who, like, especially Superman, like, I love comics and comic book characters, Marvel, DC, Image. It doesn't matter. Like, I just adore the medium. But Superman especially has always, like, had a very special place in my heart. It was, you know, my dad I'm the oldest of 4 children. My dad took my mom to go see Superman 2 in the theater to celebrate her telling him that she was pregnant with me.
Oh, nice.
My very first comic book was when I was 4 years old. It was the Man of Steel #1 by John Byrne that my dad just happened to grab at the shop on his way home. He was like, "Here you go, Brandon," and that kicked off like the rest of my life.
Nice.
You know, I grew up. My grandmother went to duty free for the Coast Guard all the time in Boston, and she would always buy me the old Max Fleischer videotapes. This right here. So I mean, I was like mired in it before I had a chance to say whether or not I liked it. It was no choice really. When I saw that movie, like, I was just flabbergasted by how they had somebody who looked and sounded exactly the way that I had always pictured and heard, especially when I was reading like John Byrne's like 1986 like post-Crisis on Infinite Earth stuff. I mean, spot on. And when I found out like some of the people that were cast, I mean, the only head scratcher for me in Man of Steel was Amy Adams. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, if they dye her hair, I guess, and then they had to be a redhead, which I keep joking to my wife. I'm like, we're just never gonna get a redheaded Lana Lang in anything besides Superman Part 3. Like, that's it. Like, every Lana Lang is gonna be like a dark haired, like olive skinned beauty, and that's that. And of course, we go to Man of Steel, and it's the exact fucking opposite. I'm like, sure, whatever. But on paper, like, everything about who they put into that production should have worked. And then when you look at the rest, like, you turn the page of that paper and it's like, oh, it's directed by Zack Snyder and it's written by David Goyer, the guy who wrote the fucking Batman movies with Jonah Nolan. What the fuck about Batman tells you that this guy should write Superman? And sure enough, I saw Man of Steel, and they were pulling on those heartstrings like nobody's business. And dude, I'm for lack of a better term, like, I'm such a pussy. Like, I will openly weep.
Yeah.
And I sat there in the theater and I was just like, oh, wow, he figured out how to fly. That's not good when you have a lifelong fan.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
you know,
I'm gonna give Brandon a chance to catch his breath. I know he has the power, but I'm gonna give him a chance to catch his breath. Let me back up just a second. Let me crawfish a little bit, as they'd say down in the old South. I'm not hating on DC. Okay, DC had some of the most solid early. I'm talking about first generation characters ever. You know, Batman, one of my all-time favorites. Superman was the very first superhero. I understand that. Look, I'm so old. I sat in a theater and watched Superman 1 and 2, 3. You know, so I know Superman. The deal is, the whole arc, the whole story arc, is just fledgling. I mean, there's no other word for it. I mean, first of all, let's talk about Batman for a second. I saw the other day that the new Batman is going to be portrayed by the guy that was a vampire in some chick flick vampire whatever. What's that? Pattinson?
Twilight.
Pattinson?
Yeah,
Really?
Twilight, yeah.
Robert Pattinson. Yeah, Robert Pattinson.
Are you so desperate for the numbers to try to get a younger audience in, or not even a younger audience? Because at this point, it's an older audience that would be coming. Was there no better option than that guy to play Batman?
Well, I mean, I think for them at that point in time, no. Particularly because they had their backs up against the wall with Ben Affleck. It wasn't even so much that Ben Affleck was waffling on his involvement. Now we know a little bit more about what was going on personally for him, and it was just physically impossible for him to fulfill that role the way that had been initially planned. So I think it was a little bit of a okay, let's see who we can get in that has like, you know, kind of a main leading actor type quality, and also might be already in Britain because they're going to shoot quite a bit of it over at Pinewood Studios. And I think Robert Pattinson fit that bill with something fierce.
Well, also keep in mind, like when we first heard that Affleck was going to be Batman, we're like, Clerks 2 or Mallrats?
That asshole from Fashionable Mail.
Dogma Affleck? You know, what kind? But he turned out to be an awesome Batman.
Yeah, I mean, this is my hot take on it. I think that when seeing him, especially in Batman v Superman, where he has a little bit more to play with, you know, with the dark aspect of it, not the theatrical release of Justice League, but with that, like, I'm not trying to like ruffle anybody's feathers. I know some of this stuff is sacrosanct, but when I watched him in Batman v Superman, I honest to God was like, oh my God, this is the live action version of the Bruce Wayne, not necessarily Batman, but the Bruce Wayne that Paul Dini and Bruce Timm gave us in the animated series. He looked like him. He talked like him. It was impressive.
Even Batman, though, that friggin' what was it? The
fight scene before when he goes to save Martha.
Yep. The fight scene was like it was taken literally out of the Batman video games,
Arkham Asylum, and that was intense.
Yep,
it was great. Yeah, that was exactly what we've always wanted to see Batman do in a Batman movie.
Yeah.
It just sucks that Zack Snyder clearly really wanted to make a Batman movie, and he shoehorned alongside, you know, with WB, he shoehorned Batman into what should have been a Superman sequel, and it really kind of took the focus off of what had been started in the previous movie. I mean, talk about, you know, too many cooks and just jam packing a fucking story.
Yeah, it's the story of DC. You know, they have good intentions, but
it's trickier for DC too. I'm not trying to excuse them, because like telling a good story, you know, just tell a good story. A good story is a good story. That's it, you know. And I think a lot of the writers and stuff who work on things like this regularly, they have a much clearer sense of that. It's when you get people who, you know, when you get Chris Terrios or Mario Puzos, you know, stuff like that, like guys who do a lot of other stuff, but they really have to like research making a Superman movie or some shit like that. And it's like, dude, I mean, maybe if you're not that familiar with the material to begin with, you're not the right guy or gal to write the story. Just saying.
Yeah.
But it's trickier for DC, and I've said this for a few years. Part of the reason why I think the MCU works a little bit better than the initial idea of what the DCEU could have been is that Marvel, and this goes into the comics too, Marvel always has taken place in New York City and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Grand Rapids, Michigan. You name it. It's a real world.
Yeah.
Whereas DC is all made up malarkey, balderdash. I mean, Metropolis, Gotham City, Coast City, Central City, Keystone City. Like, okay, we get it. And you know, they've released maps that show how each of those places is analogous to a real world place. Like Metropolis, you could set it as either like New York City or Boston, or like sort of a cross between the two.
Yeah.
Gotham City, believe it or not, they have Gotham in New Jersey, which I don't even know what city that would be. But when you make movies out of it, you notice how when it came to initially the DCEU, you had the Zack Snyder stuff and what have you. They made the characters much darker looking. They tamped down the brightness of the costumes and what have you, the look of it. Awful. Just descaled all the color out of everything. Whereas you go to Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's all brightly garbed characters through and through. Well, the reason why, I think at a base level, and this is how they approached the stories, it informed how they executed them, was that they could do the bright colors because they're like, look, we want to show you that these are just like superheroes in the real world, and kind of take you out of what could actually be happening. It sort of takes away from like the horror of the idea of an alien invasion in the middle of New York City, because there's a dude in a bright red, white, and blue costume, and a giant green dude, and a guy with a bright metal gold and red suit of armor. Whereas you got these movies taking place in silly places like Metropolis and Gotham City, which now are across the fucking bay from one another.
Yep.
And you have to give it a more serious tone so people kind of get past the silliness of those fake places, and by doing that, you make the characters more realistic. I think that was not a good approach, but no one ever talks about it. And I'm like, but how do you not see the contrast there? It's exactly what informed what they decided to do. Marvel said, oh, well, if it's real world, we got to have fun with it, to let kids and adults know, like, it's just play. It's fun. It's a good story, but don't worry. At the end of the day, it's pretend. Whereas DC, they needed you to believe that this was really happening. This could go on, because they could not let people walk out and be like, I just can't get into the fact that there's a fucking city named Metropolis. Why didn't you just call it New York City? Why didn't you just call it this? Why didn't you just call it that? Like, because that's what people do. And I think they were hedging their bets, and it's just shitty all around.
Yep. So I watched an interview with Kevin Smith, and he interviewed Malcolm Spellman, who was the showrunner with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And one of the things that struck me was he said, walking into Marvel Studios, he said it's like they can sniff out if you're a comic fan or not. He said that's like a prerequisite, is you need to be at heart a comic fan. And I think that's a lot of times where DC fails, is they go, oh, you don't know the comics? Okay, that's okay. You can just take the character and come up with something new, rather than saying, hey, Superman, we have these, 2,500 awesome storylines already written. Why don't we do this one? So I think that's a big part of it, is, you at heart, you need to be a comic fan,
the thing is, what's so fucking bonkers about it to me is that Kevin Feige has gone on record as saying, do you know what movie they watch before the start of every production?
Oh, yeah.
Superman the movie from 1978 by Richard Donner.
Yep.
Because it is the template. It is.
Oh, yeah.
There's no better framework to utilize for making a movie like that.
And that's why Wonder Woman was such a success as well, because they modeled Wonder Woman after Superman.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that too is it all comes down to Richard Donner on set in 1977 to 1978. He always kept a piece of paper with one word on it on the set. And what that word was verisimilitude. Truthfulness. If you approach it with truth, with honesty, then the audience will go along on that ride with you and believe it. And as cheesy as it might be to look back at the 1978 Superman the movie, more of it works than doesn't.
Yep.
And that's the reason. Marvel has followed suit.
Yeah, totally agree. I know.
I know that.
Oh, go ahead.
I know that he was talking about the original Superman, the 1978 Superman. I interviewed Jack O'Halloran, who played the character on the end of Superman 1, and of course throughout Superman 2, the movie. And that's what we talked about, is all the success that they're having now stems from that one movie, because those that can follow that guideline are successful, and those that can't, they end up being a flop. You talked about Wonder Woman. When it comes to the DC movie, the movies that have been produced, I've had an opportunity to see. Wonder Woman is head and shoulders, in my opinion, better than most. Here's a perfect example. This guy epitomizes the difference in DC and the MCU at this point. Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds laid an egg in Green Lantern, but he knocked it out of the ballpark with Deadpool. And he was interviewed, and the reason he said that the success in MCU was so much, was so high for him, is he saw everything that you could do wrong as a superhero in his DC production, and he tried to do the exact opposite when he became the character of Deadpool.
Absolutely, and it's funny that
DC might be cursed. I mean,
just real quick, a funny thing.
Somebody, cursed, guys.
Maybe
somebody apparently in Canadian television, some station up there, they played Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2. They played the ending of Deadpool 2 where it's Deadpool shooting Ryan Reynolds. Right after that, they cut into Green Lantern, the movie.
Wow, that's brilliant. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
And funny enough that you bring up Green Lantern, the movie starring Ryan Reynolds. I actually did think about that quite a bit looking at He-Man stuff over the past few days.
Nice.
And the reason why is because as much as I was simultaneously entertained and confused by the movie Masters of the Universe when I was a child, I realized when I saw Green Lantern for the first time that both of those movies do the same thing. And what that is you take a very large, fantastical world filled with just great, colorful, entertaining characters, and then for some reason, within 5 minutes, you stick them all on Earth. Just put them on Earth. Oh, is there a fantasy world that you'd like to see? Is there an alien planet? Is there some cool action adventure stuff that you want to see take place there? Well, none of that. We're gonna go back to Earth. That's exactly what both of those movies did. I mean, it's uncanny to sit there and compare and contrast the two of them, because like they make some of the same mistakes. Granted, Green Lantern is in a little bit of a class by itself because they couldn't decide whether or not they wanted to be a superhero movie or a fucking Cronenberg horror movie. But essentially, yeah, take this cool, fantastical hero and just show like the stuff away from Earth for a blink of an eye, and then shove them right back to the West Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, Dolph Lundgren is He-Man in the middle of Los Angeles? All right, cool, sure. I'm along for the ride. But it's just so weird to see, like, knowing now what we know, the budget of the movie was like, it was one number and then started to get reduced significantly as the production went on. But man, some of the design work, even with what they were able to do, you see it, it's like, oh, you knew that they had bigger ideas that they were trying to pursue in Masters of the Universe. And I don't even fault any of the players, that you see on screen. Not a bit. I actually think Dolph Lundgren did a pretty good job as He-Man, especially for his first big, like, starring action role.
Yeah.
It's just, oh man, just what the hell? Like, they thank God they had Frank Langella. Thank God. Because that dude, like, he showed up to Chew Scenery and he made the biggest meal of it, and it was incredible.
So, first off, awesome segue. Thank you. So our main topic for tonight is obviously He-Man. We're looking at, the past, present, future. And so I do a little thing on our comic show. I figured I'd start it here, especially if we're going to start doing regular topics. But He-Man was born in 1981. And, if you're a friend of Golden Girls, channeling my inner Sophia. Picture it, Sicily, 1981. The Gipper was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was president. That year, the Gipper and Pope John Paul II were wounded by gunmen in an assassination attempt. The Dodgers beat the Yankees in the World Series. A little station called MTV went on to air with Video Killed the Radio Star, and Pac-Mania sweeps the country. Also getting us into the mood, we paid a ticket price of $2.78 to go see Raiders of the Lost Ark, Stripes, Cannonball Run, and Chariots of Fire, along with Time Bandits. On the boob tube, we were watching MASH, Too Close for Comfort, Dukes of Hazzard, Three's Company, The Jeffersons, and you just learned who shot JR in Dallas. If you're a kid in 1981 Saturday morning cartoons, you enjoyed Super Friends. Now get this, these were actual cartoons. Fonz and the Happy Days Gang, Laverne and Shirley in the Army, and the Richie Rich Scooby-Doo Show. Thundar the Barbarian, and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, also Flintstones and Smurfs. Gas cost a whopping $1.31 a gallon. IBM released the first computer running MS-DOS. Europe sped along with the first high-speed train at 236 miles per hour. And the album of the year was Christopher Cross with best-selling song Sailing. And Shogun, Hill Street Blues, and Taxi smashed it at the Emmys. And Coal Miner's Daughter and Ordinary People took home the Golden Globes. That brings us to 1981, birth of He-Man.
Okay, so first topic of discussion.
Yes.
Coal Miner's Daughter. What a great movie. No, actually, it is a really good movie if anybody does get the chance. Sissy Spacek and Tommy Lee Jones. It's all about Loretta Lynn. Excellent movie. But yeah, man. You're actually a year before I was born. However, I can say this much. I remember very, very far back into my childhood. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. But being the oldest, I learned how to read pretty early on. Like, my dad used to teach me with the newspaper, and that ended up being a huge folly for him, because one of my first memories was watching He-Man on the television, and I loved He-Man. It was a cartoon, and I was like 2, but because I was starting to read, he opened the newspaper in front of me one day. This is the Boston Herald or the Boston Globe, and there was a giant ad at, which is now defunct, Benson's Animal Farm in Hudson, New Hampshire, and they were going to have He-Man and several of the other characters there, like people, models in costume, and I was able to read He-Man and his friends and like Saturday and the Date and Benson's Animal Farm, and I started losing my mind. And my mother and father were like, well, hopefully he'll forget about it. And I didn't shut up about it for a week. And so they loaded me into the car, and for I stayed awake the entire drive to New Hampshire. We got to see He-Man, and the second I finished seeing He-Man and getting my picture taken with him, I passed the out and woke back up in Massachusetts. That was like my first solid memory of He-Man.
Wow. So there was a bunch of material. I gave you guys, I don't know who watched what. There was a couple documentaries, also the Toys That Made Us on Netflix, and a story of how that became. So Kenner, they kicked themselves in the ass because they lost out on the Star Wars license. Star Wars was eating them up.
Lost out.
Oh yeah, they passed it up.
Yeah.
And so they are trying to figure out, what could they do to boost up sales, and they tried all these different IPs. There was Battlestar Galactica and Big Jim, and I forgot what the others were, but they were all loser properties,
Flash Gordon and Clash of the Titans.
Yes. Yep. Oh, Clash of the Titans. Yeah.
And they started designing the toys before the movie had ever come out. They actually had a lead in because they had touched base with a bunch of the designers. So they had stuff out on the shelves that looked really cool.
Yeah.
For about 5 to 6 months before the movie was released. And then the movie was released and nobody wanted Clash of the Titans stuff anymore.
Yep. So basically they took, one of their figures, and one of them was, really obsessed with bodybuilding, and put like molding clay on one of the characters. And they used the focus groups and found out that, medieval characters were big with kids. And, that was pretty much the birth of He-Man, was, just this, big muscle bound character. And they heard the kids kept on saying, power, I have the power. And that was the catchphrase. What else did you guys get out of that?
Do you want to go, William?
All right, so let me educate you youngsters on something, since I actually live what we're talking about. So
I lived it too. How old are you, William?
No, you were just a small child though. I was pre-adolescence. I mean, I think I was almost driving, but I wasn't. I was like 11 years old. One thing I remember He-Man. I remember a couple things about He-Man. I remember that, I want to say it was like the Christmas of '82. It might have been the Christmas of '83. Every store you walked in had these huge displays.
Yeah.
These He-Man associated, toys, and probably my brother is 4.5 years younger than me. It's right in his wheelhouse. I mean, he was right in the middle he was the target demographic on a lot of the projects. But I do remember watching a VHS copy of the movie Conan, and immediately thinking that somebody ripped somebody off. Even at 11, I knew this. Somebody ripped somebody off. And then one thing that I know, and this is just my own personal opinion, one thing that I think pushed that whole phenomenon of He-Man and all the products and the fantasy, and I have, by the power of Grayskull. I understand all that, but a big deal going on when I was around that age, 10 to 13 in that range, was the role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons. Was enormous. Yep. That's what, because that was fueling imagination. I mean, you were able to sit down with your buddies and go through these different dungeon layouts that you created, and you were coming up with the scenarios. I mean, you had the books you could buy, and you could do all that, but a lot of us were coming up with our own scenarios as you were going through the whole Odyssey. And I think that's one of the things that really fueled. That's why the actual He-Man, the series, like the animated stuff, was so popular, because you were actually seeing that stuff play out. Stuff that you had thought about was playing out on the actual TV screen. That's just my opinion, though.
Well, no, I totally get you. I mean, definitely in that time, I remember D&D being big, and you also had, obviously Conan, and in documentary, the guy that drew up the initial designs was copying Frank Frazetta. Uh,
Which I loved his attitude. He's like, yeah, I can do whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine. I can copy whoever you want. I'm the best.
Yeah. And this was a thing that, the cartoon really spiked a change in how toys were done, because when they had the toy, the company Child's Store or whatever it was, that it wasn't Toys R Us. They were saying, these figures are great, but how are the kids going to know about them? Oh, you didn't know? We're going to make a comic book. And then they went to Toys R Us, goes, Toys R Us, comic kids 5 years old can't read comics. What are you going to do? Oh, we're going to do a TV show. And so they made the figures before the TV show, which was crazy. But then you started seeing all those shows like Mask and whatnot. And do we got a puppy dog? You muted.
Thing that I noticed,
okay, there. Sorry about
like
that.
Said,
Yeah,
I was 11 years old when this whole thing started. Okay, but then as this whole monster that was He-Man kept rolling along. I mean, I was well into high school by the time it kind of started waning, and so I was old enough at that point. I would look and just be amazed at the amount of products they were putting out and were selling it. Like, I mean, a lot of the characters you couldn't find, like the more popular characters, you couldn't find them anywhere. And then they did go a little crazy. They did produce too many, actual characters. And I mean, some of the original concept stuff that I went back and checked out, some of the name creation and stuff like that, some of the stupidest stuff I'd ever heard of.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank God somebody with some sense stepped in and took over, because the one guy, one of the original creation guys, was talking about in an interview he did about he wanted to keep the man theme going, talking about He-Man, Woman, I don't know, like Moss Man. I mean, it was
Seaman.
Seaman, yeah.
Yeah, it was just insane. I couldn't believe that guy, somebody should hit his off switch. This dude has lost it. So.
Well, I mean, thankfully that some did step in. They're like, yeah. How about instead of Woman, we just name her Tila? And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess that's a better name.
Yeah.
How about instead of Seaman, we go with Merman, because that first thing sounds gross.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I know at one point it seemed like they took up entire sections in the toy store. Like you'd walk down an aisle and it'd be the entire aisle.
Well, one of the things they said is like the first year they said they planned on doing $13 million in sales, but they end up doing 70 million, I think it was. And then it just ballooned from there. And they're not sure what caused the decline, but one person said, during the years after She-Ra, that for some reason, the manufacturer wasn't shipping He-Man and Skeletor toys. They said, well, we need more stock on the shelves. And they go, okay, we have plenty of Bumbleman or whatever it was. Let's just ship him instead of making more He-Man and Skeletor. And they said, the kids just getting into it couldn't get the key characters.
Yeah. And that's the thing, that I think is the primary issue with why it took such a hit. I think it's really, honestly and truly, I think it's really a cheap shot and sort of punching down to say oh, it's because of She-Ra and they don't think that He-Man's masculine anymore. No, that's bullshit, because they were on simultaneously and He-Man was still doing well for a while. It's only when they had too much supply of a particular type of toy and they weren't meeting the demand for everything else that kids lost interest. I liken it to Superman and Supergirl. Supergirl existing did not take away from Superman existing. That's ridiculous. You have something for each gender at that point where they can connect with and relate to this powerful character. And there's certainly crossover. I'm sure there were plenty of young boys who liked She-Ra and plenty of young girls who liked He-Man. But moreover, because He-Man and She-Ra were brother and sister, you could have brothers and sisters who had these toys play together with those toys.
Exactly.
So it's such a cop out to say that boys felt like they didn't have the power anymore. Nah, that's crap. That's absolute crap. I don't buy it. I think that's just trying to shift blame and try to really just like make the women that fucking worked really hard and did some really cool stuff with She-Ra feel less than. That's it. And I don't buy it.
Well, growing up when I was a kid, I was a Star Wars kid, and then I went from Star Wars to Transformers. And growing up, we didn't have a lot, and you just get to select few characters, but it was like the cool kids had the He-Man, it was the kids that were kind of well off, they had all the characters and the Castle Grayskull and stuff like that. And I'm playing with my Luke Skywalker with his sand speeder, having fun. But yeah, it was I never had He-Man characters. Some of my friends did, but it just seemed like it was a cool kids had He-Man. And
some of us were lucky enough to have slightly older cousins or uncles and such. Funny enough, I've told you Leo in the past, like I had a large collection with my brother. We had a large collection of original Star Wars figures and vehicles and such that, of course, tale as old as time, Mom threw them out.
Yep.
I hate talking about it. But the thing is, my cousin, Melissa, she loved action figures and stuff like that. And my family has always been pretty much like, if you like it, then fuck it. It doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, whatever, who cares? Well, my cousin Melissa, she was like the only kid for a while too, because she's the oldest grandchild on my mom's side. And then there's me, like her, me, and there's like 7 or 8 years between us. So when I was starting to get into a lot of these things, and realize there were action figures, she had a bunch of them. A whole bunch of Masters of the Universe stuff. I had Castle Grayskull because of her.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I remember she was the first person to correct me on calling it the Jawbridge and not the Drawbridge. But I got all that stuff from her, as well as a bunch of Thundercats stuff when I was really little.
Oh, nice.
And that all was baby in bathwater with Star Wars. But that was pretty much the only way you could get some of those things later on. And especially for me, 1987, 1988, forget about it.
Yeah.
Well,
so
Leo brought up a point just a second ago I'd like to speak on for just a second. You made a statement, or you made a statement similar to they couldn't understand why the numbers just dropped off, like they fell off a cliff. Well, there's a few things you got to take into account. And as an adult, it's easier to rationalize this than when you were, a teenager. First of all, a few things happened. Well, first of all, the reason they were so successful to start with is because the whole fantasy market, Star Wars and Star Trek started it. And then it morphed into more things like He-Man and Thundercats and stuff like that, because all this stuff was being created by a group of creators that were born in the 60s. They grew up on the aliens are invading the world and bomb shelters and stuff like that. And then their kids are the ones they were designing them for their children. Like I said, I was 11 years old in 81, so I'm buying this. What happened though? They lost their target market, but we grew up on action figures like $6 Million Man and stuff like that. But the problem was we grew up with them, but then we grew up and we started, getting personal computers, because that was a real thing. We started getting gaming systems like Atari and Nintendo and stuff like that. We started driving cars. We started to the mall. The girls left away because the guys picked the girls up and took them to the mall with them. And we went to the mall and we bought music. And we weren't going to the toy store. We were going by, CDs and cassettes and stuff like that. And our interest just shifted, and it shifted very quickly and very dramatically, because let's be honest, after the late 80s, the middle 80s, the whole action figure market just fell off. I mean, it's not like it just happened. It's been a constant decline since then. Now, except for some really stupid stuff like Beanie Babies and stuff like that that had an uprising in the 90s, really that type of collectible stuff just kind of fell off a cliff. That's why a guy like me that has stuff that he collected over the years and you're holding on to it, and people say, why do you hold on to that kind of stuff? What are you talking about? They don't make this stuff anymore. That's why you hold on to it. This stuff is appreciating in value every day. I was watching a video of some guy's collection, the He-Man collection he had, where it was in a room and everything was behind glass and everything was encased separately and all that. Now that's a little excessive, unless of course he wanted to give me some of that so I could sell it on eBay. But I mean, but I think, looking at it as an adult and not looking at it, back when I was 10 or 11 or even 15 or 16 years old, that's some of the determining factors I feel that really caused it. Because in the 80s, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, after about 12 years old, I was probably growing up at a faster clip than I needed to grow up. But and then by the time I was a full-blown teenager, I mean, it was, the time for toys is past at that point. It was all about getting driver's license, and we started boys and girls started being interested in each other for other things besides playing Star Wars out in the playground, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you wanted to play with different things.
That's right. Yeah, you wanted, Chewbacca wanted to get some action with Princess Leia for a whole different reason at that point. So, yeah, I know.
The birth of the furry.
Yeah.
Leo.
I was going to go that direction. I thought that was too far, but if you went there, we'll go with it.
It's not too far.
Nope.
Too far. It's too far.
Oh.
So I mean, there definitely was a waning of He-Man, and we didn't really talk about the movie was definitely a bomb. And you touched on it, it had some great actors in it.
Great performances for the most part. Very interesting to see a very young Courtney Cox, like I think fresh off of that Bruce Springsteen music video she was in.
Yeah.
And then
Meg Foster as Evil Lynn.
I mean, that's inspired casting right there, because Judas Priest, no special effects needed. Meg Foster's eyes just so beautifully haunting.
Yep. I watching it, I'm like, the boyfriend, Kevin, I'm like, I know him from something. What the hell? And it was Voyager, Star Trek Voyager.
Son of that. Okay. I just had a similar moment tonight, like not He-Man related, but I just had a moment like that tonight, and it was just like looking at something on Plex, as a matter of fact, like just going through, and I was like, oh my God. Oh, like I was rewatching Johnny Dangerously the other night, and like I'm looking at the kid that played the young Tommy Kelly in it, the young Griffin Dunn character. And while I was watching, I'm like, why the fuck does this kid look so familiar? Like every time I watch this, I always think to myself, why does he look familiar? And I go through the TV shows and I see Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and I start explaining to my wife, who has never seen anything, what Parker Lewis Can't Lose is. And I start joking. I'm like, oh yeah, when we were in high school, my friends used to joke that I was just like Jerry on the show, because he had this trench coat that just had everything in it. And I had a UMass coat that had two huge pockets inside, that it was the same thing. Like I was a Boy Scout, so I was always prepared for everything, like decks of cards, utensils, cups, whatever. And as I'm talking about it, I was like, oh my God, that's what I know that little kid from. It's Jerry. It's Jerry from Parker Lewis Can't Lose, played the younger Tommy Kelly in Johnny Dangerously. Wow. Yeah. So sorry for that little side quest there. I apologize, but I get it. It's fucking mind blowing when you see someone and it finally clicks.
Yeah. And you had that stupid character Gwildor, which it was so far off from He-Man.
But it was so close to Orko. It was just like it was so close.
Exactly. He played Willow. He was in Willow.
He was in Willow.
Yeah, he wasn't Willow. It was yeah. He was in Willow. Yeah, I'm reading the wrong thing. But yeah, it's god awful. Even watching it today, it's
Billy Barty. Billy Barty,
yep,
wasn't
Billy Barty.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only other thing I know of him offhand, like immediately, is UHF. Weird Al Yankovic. He was the cameraman, which I love, like having a 3-foot tall cameraman for Fran Drescher.
Yeah, he's also known for Legend. Yeah, and I think that's yeah. So looking into the future, which a lot of us are excited for, is the new Kevin Smith series, which looks phenomenal for Netflix. And they've been on a roll. So like the Transformers show that they rebooted, the first season was good. Second season was like, eh. Have you guys watched that?
No, I didn't really check it out.
I have not. No.
So the series was made to sell the toys, obviously.
What?
Okay, so here's how they cheaped out. They used the actual 3D models for the toys for the movie, for the show, because somebody pointed out, not Galvatron, Megatron, his tank treads have little wheels under it because the toy tank tread doesn't move, so it has a little wheel, so he can roll, and his character has the same thing in the show. His tank treads are.
I'm never watching it. Never watching it.
Smooth.
But I mean, the toys are awesome. I started collecting the toys again because of the show, but the show was kind of cheesy. But the high end toys that they're making with, same thing with He-Man. The He-Man, they have a new, they're doing high end toys again now. They have a new Castle Grayskull that's selling for $80 at Walmart. But it is high quality stuff for us, older geeks, that want to relive some of our childhood. But to go along with the show, we mentioned Chris Wood earlier. So the cast is amazing. So Chris Wood, we know him from Supergirl. He's playing He-Man. Diedrich Bader is Trapjaw. Kevin Conroy is Merman. Liam Cunningham is Man at Arms.
I am the Mer.
Sarah Michelle Gellar is Tila. Susan Eisenberg is Sorceress. Mark Hamill is Skeletor. That's going to be phenomenal.
I can't wait to hear his take on that.
Yeah.
It's going to be real interesting because, first of all, he always has like a similar like quality to like his higher pitched guys, and I feel like he might go that route, but not like not Joker-esque, not campy.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to go the same way that what's his name, Alan Oppenheimer? Is that the voice of Skeletor in the original? I don't think he's going to go quite as like, you 10-tongue twit, that kind of thing. Nah! You feckless boob. I don't think he's going to do that exactly.
No. Well, I would imagine it may be close to it, because this is from what I understand, this is an actual successor to the 80s cartoon.
Good.
It takes place decades after there was a climactic battle with He-Man and Skeletor, and apparently the sword was lost and everybody's been separated. So
it sounds like they might be somewhat incorporating the general idea of the split power sword from the first iteration of He-Man, which I'm for, because I actually think that was a piece of lore that could have been made a bit more useful throughout the entirety of the story as it originally was. So that'd be interesting to see it as part of like a quest throughout Eternia. That's cool. I like that.
Well, but if it's that means we're not going to see. So Chris Wood plays Prince Adam and He-Man, obviously. But so I guess that means we won't see He-Man until later on. It's only 5 episodes. Also, it's the first.
Well,
season.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like maybe that might be what they build towards. It gets to a crescendo point, and that's what builds the interest on continuing it and seeing the further adventures. I mean, that's kind of a smart move. You gauge it by what the reaction is. I get it. I get it. Like I'm not gonna watch it, you know.
And just for a little bit more of the cast, you can't get a more perfect evil Lena Headey from
I Choose Violence.
Yeah. If you don't know her, Game of Thrones. Justin Long is Roboto. Phil Lamar is Hero. Yeah. Jason Mewes is going to play Stinkor. Griffin.
Ladies.
$15, little man. Put that,
Oh, look, Alan Oppenheimer is going to be Moss Man, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
The original Skeletor.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Griffin Newman is Orko. Let's see, does it show? Where's he from?
Whoa.
How come it's not coming up? Griffin Newman. Come on, I'm clicking
Griffin
on the button.
Newman?
Yeah, where's he from? Oh,
is he from The Tick?
Yes.
Wasn't he in the Tick on Amazon? He played Arthur, right?
Yep. Oh my God, that was such a good show.
That show was amazing. Oh, Peter Serafinowicz was perfect. I mean, just like, I don't know how many people realized it when they were watching it, but like that dude's Adam West impression, because that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was playing Adam West as Batman from 1966, and it was so good.
Yeah. Wally, did you William, I keep on calling you Wally. did you watch Tick?
Oh, I did not, no. Hey, I do have a question though. You brought up 5 episodes. You don't think that's just a little teaser, just a little taste, so they can reboot that horrendous first movie and make it into a real feature film with gratuitous violence and sex and all that kind of stuff, to really sell, to the now adult group that watched it as children?
I think they will push the limits as far as they can go, but they still want those kid bucks for those toys and stuff. They will definitely market towards adults and children for sure.
But we were talking about the first movie, and the first movie was an absolute bomb. It was horrible, but it wasn't their fault though, because you got to realize they were coming off the 70s, where they were so regulated in the 70s. Man, there was things you couldn't say, things you couldn't do. I mean, let's be honest. If He-Man is He-Man, he gonna kill somebody every now and then. You see what I'm saying? I mean,
He should.
That movie should have had some blood on the sword. You know what I'm saying? So
that was the plan, absolutely.
And look, listen, I'm not a huge proponent of taking old movies and doing remakes. It drives me crazy. But this is the kind of movie that you could take and redo, like total revision, and it would be awesome.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy to think that they had to shift so many plans from that one movie that bombed too. I mean, they had believe it or not, I mean, I don't know if you know much about it, but they actually did have a trilogy planned out. And the second movie was taken and changed into Cyborg, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh.
And then the third movie, they tweaked ever so slightly, and they said, oh, maybe we could try to go for a property that does something like this. And they found one in Marvel Comics, which sold Canon and Golem Globus the rights to Captain America, because the third movie was going to be He-Man is tricked into a sort of suspended animation by Skeletor, and then he wakes up 50 to 100 years later to find that Skeletor has gone deep underground, but is still like running everything because he's just the most evil son of a bitch that's ever walked the earth. That is almost exactly what the 1990 Captain America movie is.
Wasn't I watched bits and pieces. What Red Skull was in that?
Oh yeah, I mean Red Skull. Yeah, he shows up at the beginning. he's Italian he's an Italian fascist instead of a German fascist. And he goes through the same super soldier serum process that Steve Rogers did. He actually went through it first. That's the whole thing, is like he went through first, and it left him with this weird red cracked countenance. They made him look like the Red Skull for what they could at the time. It was actually pretty good. But then they have later on in the movie, like, it's the whole, like, he's been running things like behind the scenes and underground. He's just been like this shadow figure for decades, and he's gotten countless plastic surgeries to make his skin like a regular color and make him look more normal. But he still has like these weirdly high cheekbones, and you can see like the cracks where, like, underneath the skin that were on the red portion of him. And it's the friggin' drama teacher from Teen Wolf that plays Red Skull in it. When he's kicking Captain America's ass at the beginning of the movies, he's like, "Oh, good, an American." I get, because he's Italian, remember, not German. It's like, "Oh, I get to practice my English. Where is the pen of my aunt? The pen of my aunt is on the table." As he's like sticking a needle in Captain America's carotid artery.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a weird one. If you get a chance to check it out, though, do so, because it's literally got a connective thread from that to Superman the movie, and that connective thread is Ned Beatty.
Okay. They did release some images for the cartoon coming out, and it's actually coming out soon. I think it's June, right? June 23rd.
Believe so, yeah.
And check these out for the
July 23rd. July 23rd.
Okay. Yeah, we got to get through MODOK first. Yeah, these pictures were released. Skeletor looks friggin' phenomenal. He-Man looks really beefy.
Yeah, you ain't lying.
Not a lion, but a tiger.
Oh my.
Stephen Root, who played Milton, is going to be Cringer.
Yes. Oh my God, that's incredible. Holy crap! I'm sorry. Who? Henry Rollins is a voice in this?
Yes, Henry Rollins plays Triclops. Alicia Silverstone is Queen Marlena.
Who's doing Beastman here?
Kevin Michael Richardson.
Oh shit, that's a good pick. He's got that deep. He can do the guttural thing really well. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's done voices in so many things. He was the Joker in one of the Batman. One of the Batman cartoons, was it Beware the Batman or something like that?
Let me see. He's Anger Watkins and Dr. Hibbert in The Simpsons. He's Mammoth and Trigon in Teen Titans Go. Oh, he was the Mollo twins, Monster Girl.
That I was trying to think of the most recent like big thing. Yes,
Monster Girl and Invincible.
Yep. He also he's the principal Principal Brian Lewis in American Dad, if you watch that at all. But yeah, the dude has been around for a long time. He's got a lot of impressive voice acting credits. I think he was actually the voice of Goro in one version of Mortal Kombat, maybe the first movie.
Yeah, I'm going back to his IMDb. He started out in '92.
Yeah, man. He funny enough, like I remember he even had a voice in Clerks, the cartoon, the animated series.
Really?
Yeah. Have you seen that? The Clerks animated series?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's just a bit part, but I remember him specifically because he has a very distinctive voice. He walks into the store one day, and he's one of the crazy customers they're talking about. He's like, "I'm gonna burn this place to the ground and pee on the ashes." That's Kevin Michael Richardson.
He was in Leisure Suit Larry, Love for Sale.
Oh my God, Leisure Suit Larry.
Those games, holy shit.
I love those games.
Superman the animated series. He was AI, a cop and a thug. Pinky and the Brain. He was in The Mask. Tons of stuff. Holy crap.
Yeah, I think he did the voice of Shredder at one point. I know he was the voice of the sheriff in Gravity Falls on Disney. He's been around for a while. He's done a lot of stuff. So it's very cool to see someone who's like tried and true and been in the industry for a while taking part of this. That's awesome.
A couple more pictures here. He-Man again looking super beefy. Moss Man. This is
Sorceress.
Yeah. And then we have this ragtag group.
Ooh.
So Evelyn, Roboto, Tila. I don't know the new character in Orko.
Wonder who that is.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I really like that.
The artwork looks amazing.
Yeah, honestly, I like that they didn't try to do a more lean look.
Yeah.
For a lot of it, I feel like that was. I know it was like the style at the time, but I feel like that was actually a downfall for the Thundercats reboot that they did. Was they made it look too different. It was still good looking. Don't get me wrong, but they made it look too different from what people remembered. And it was a very American cartoon. The way it looked, the way it was designed, and to do something like that with He-Man would never work. I mean, there's a reason why everything past the original cartoon series is not done well.
Yep. So it's that's pretty much all the information we have on the new series. But it looks good. I'm excited to see it. I'm assuming you guys gonna watch it. I'm assuming, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty cool too to see like a number of these people that are voicing characters in the series, because I'm looking at the IMDb now.
Yep.
Are all people that Kevin Smith has worked with on other productions.
I know.
Chris Wood was on Supergirl, which Kevin Smith directed numerous episodes of. Diedrich Bader was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back as a security guard. Mark Hamill played Cockknocker in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Justin Long, he was in Zack and Miri Make a Porno and Tusk. Jason Mewes, I don't need to say anything else about that. I feel like even Stephen Root was in something else that he did. But I mean, just like it's just really cool to see how he brought like a bunch of Liam Cunningham is Man-at-Arms. He was one of the best parts of Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
Sir Davos.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I wonder what kind of, because I think he's Irish, but he always spoke with more of a British lilt in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what the quality of his character's voice is going to be, and if they're going to refer to him more as Duncan than Man-at-Arms.
Yeah. You just brought back bad memories.
Because of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, and how his little friend there, how they burned her, and all of it for fucking nothing.
All of it for nothing.
The whole fucking series for nothing.
I mean, honestly, listen, man, I know it's a couple years later, and a lot of people were really, really upset when that happened. Personally, I watched the show. I was there every week for it. And when it came to the end, I was just like, okay, well, I mean, I don't have to worry about watching that anymore. There's that.
Well, so we loved watching Game of Thrones, the first, 6 seasons. Me and my wife, before the new season, we would rewatch, the past seasons to get ready for it. And we'd regularly rewatch the seasons because they were good. But getting to the end, it's so bad that I don't even want to touch the early seasons again. I want nothing to do with it.
Well, I mean, at any rate, now you'll have a new semi-medieval-ish show that Kevin Smith is running with a lot of cooler characters that you're familiar with from childhood. So
Exactly.
and plus you have a couple of people from the show that shall not be mentioned,
Yep.
who are part of it, and maybe this can be a little bit of a redemption for them.
Before we wrap things up, Wally, what are your? Did you watch Game of Thrones? Do you have any thoughts on the 2-year reunion? 2-year?
Oh yeah. Game of Thrones was one of those kind of genre defining. Yeah, that's the kind of series that ran, and you're going to remember bits and pieces of episodes for years to come. That's just like I made just an offhand reference at work today, and a guy that's similar. He's close in age to me. He actually quoted the actual direct quotation from a MASH episode, and I didn't even realize I said it, but he realized I said it. That's the kind of series that Game of Thrones will be. You'll see something and it'll trigger a memory. You'll hear somebody say something that's going to trigger. I remember exactly where I was when I watched that episode. And I know a lot of fans. Now, as the series wore on, I didn't watch a whole lot because the product to me just got, I don't know, stale, I guess is the best way to say it.
It lasted longer than the real Korean War.
Man, it was all the rage, man, when it first started.
Oh no, I love the show. I love that show. So you don't have to defend it to me. I'm on your side. That shit fucking rocked.
Yeah.
But yeah, Game of Thrones definitely like in the zeitgeist. Like it can sneak in for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'll be one of those series. I mean, you'll always and like I said, you were making a reference about the new series we're gonna watch it. Of course, they're going to drag us all back in. It was 40 years ago. Now we all are grown and have plenty of money to buy new merchandise they're going to put out. They're going to go to the new movie they're going to create. Of course, we're going to do that. That's what we do. We're creatures of habit. And like I said,
we all know.
I mean,
we all know they're going to make it. We're going to give them the money to take the stuff that they make for it. Like, it's a vicious cycle, and we love it.
Yeah. We'll catch ourselves buying the little, you were talking about earlier when you were talking about non-masculine or I don't remember exactly what you made a reference to, man, not being masculine or something. I said he's a 4-inch Lou Ferrigno. Of course he was. I mean, even the figurine looks scary. So, I'm sorry, the action figure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call it a figurine. An action figure, it even looks scary. So, and I can't imagine, with the technology they've got now, what this stuff's going to look like. It's just like I'm telling you, a new film project, I believe, would be amazing because it looks so. I mean, for its time, that movie visually, it was a visual masterpiece. So I can't imagine now what they could do with it. You gotta get some blood on the sword, though, man. Gotta get some blood on the sword.
Yeah, I don't think they'll make that mistake again. I think they will definitely show, a little bit more swords and sorcery this time around, and not San Francisco and synthesizers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to give a shout out to the free folk community. If you're a Game of Thrones hater, head on over to Reddit. There is a very active and loving community of everybody getting together to hate on Game of Thrones. Even
yes, so much love. They love to hate Game of Thrones.
So Wally, before we wrap things up, why don't you remind everybody about your show, what you do, what you talk about, where people can find it, and what day does it come out?
Sure, man. Name of the show is World of Wally. I am the creator and host. I had to make it something simple I can remember. That's why it's called World of Wally. We have a new episode drops every Friday at 12:01 a.m. on Friday. Got to make it real dramatic. And like I said, you can find, I got a Facebook page, World of Wally, Instagram, you can find me World of Wally _official. And the actual link is anchor.fm/World of Wally. And that's just me. That's just me. You will find something. I promise you, you will find an episode that you'll gravitate to, because when I say I'm all over the place, I am all over the place.
Awesome. Well, we urge everybody to definitely check it out. And I got a bunch of links in the show notes up above or down below. Powerful Brandon, what about you, sir?
I run the Powers Combined Facebook group. Just, it's all about geeky, nerdy stuff. Number one rule, don't be a jerk. And everything else is copacetic. Just come on in. There's a lot of fun and friendly people there. Always looking to see new faces and start new conversations. And aside from that, you could follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I believe the names are both going to be in the link. Twitter is @Brandon's Powers, and Instagram is This Brandon Has Powers. Just drop me a line.
Cool beans. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but more importantly, follow these awesome people. And I run a little thing called the Dorkening Podcast Network. Over 30 shows on a network. A lot of awesome people doing a lot of awesome stuff. And we're just a little community trying to help each other and just spread the word of geek love. With that,
full frontal nerdity.
Yeah. Catch you guys later. Bye.